All right, welcome back to another live. I don't normally do these back to back, but it just so happened scheduling wise to work out that way. So, Jacob, thank you so much for joining me. My guest today is Jacob Goldshine with Notice Media, and we're going to be talking about can you make money through LinkedIn? So, Jacob, I'm going to just start you off with LinkedIn used to be primarily job hunting, resumes, and whatnot, but can you actually make money through LinkedIn?
Yes. So the short answer is yes, you can make money on LinkedIn. It's funny. I actually spoke the other week. I think it was last week, speaking to two founders actually, and they both asked me, you know, you work on LinkedIn, right? And I was like, yes, I work on LinkedIn. And they said, so why are you just trying to help people get jobs? And I said, I mean, sure, that's one of the use cases, but for us, we're not actually helping people get jobs. We're helping people actually build out their personal brands on LinkedIn specifically. So for us, our role is to essentially become your content engine, right? To build out that presence to get you noticed, which is what we call notice media, um, to the people that you actually want to interact with. So customers, clients, partners, investors, anyone and everyone that you can possibly reach to.
So, if you're going to be focusing on LinkedIn to actually drive revenue for your business or get noticed, what strategies are you seeing work most effectively?
Yeah, so I like to say that success on LinkedIn is geared towards four pillars. So it's outreach, it's commenting, it's a profile that looks good, and it's obviously content itself. So first, content is the most difficult one. So let's start with that. So good content looks like this. Good content usually centers around three different pillars. It centers around building a proximity to you as a founder, right? Who are you, right? What do you do differently? What got you started in this space? Really building out that personality that you already have, just building it out on the internet and obviously on LinkedIn. Then it's building a proximity to your company, right? Building a proximity to what your company does differently, right? What do you do better than others? What is your unique value offering that others may not be offering, or something that you do better, right? And then it's industry itself, right? So obviously, if you're centered around an actual industry, why should someone actually listen to your thoughts, right? Why should someone respect you and what you have to say? So building really around those three pillars of success on content, and then obviously with commenting and outreach, it's really understanding who your ICP is. And once you have, like, what we do is we like helping people create a massive list of people who they should be engaging with. And what we like to say is commenting is kind of like piggybacking off of their audience, right?
Hmm.
So if you have someone that you actually understand and you see, wait a second, they're someone who already interacts with my ICP. Let me comment under their post. Let me provide some value for their readers. And then those will also notice me, and I can then start conversations that way.
Yeah. So then, when you're creating this kind of content, um, do you find what kind of content do you see working most successfully for people?
Yeah, so it's definitely interesting. So we had one founder who, she was struggling because we were speaking about these three pillars, and it seemed that two of the three pillars were just not working well, right? Only talking about her company didn't do well, and only
Hmm.
talking about the industry didn't really do well. But personal stories for her always blew up. So we were thinking, okay, what can actually be done? And what we realized is that for each individual person, one pillar might be more successful, but what you have to then do is kind of weave in those personal anecdotes within the other pillars. So what I mean by that is, with her, we were talking about something, how she helped certain other companies with churn, right? She was helping them with they're called leaky buckets, right? Helping them essentially stop people from leaving the company. Obviously, customers leaving the company. And what we realized is, if she was able to spin that as a personal story, I helped this company do X, Y, and Z. This is
Hmm.
how I learned it, right? Framing it as an actual story rather than just this is what I did and as like a checklist. It blew up, but it also covered two of the pillars, right? Understanding both what she does as a company differently, right? The personal touch to it, as well as building a proximity to her as a founder, and how she herself actually helped someone, right? And someone who you could actually trust to do this service. So for us, that's usually what does best, is how could you intertwine personal stories within actual expertise, within um, within your actual product.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think there's a lot of people that have strayed away from sharing personal stories on LinkedIn. But I mean, I totally agree. The more, personally for me, the more that I've shared about things that are going on in my life or milestones that are happening, even just on that side, definitely not only do those tend to do better, but it also helps people who work with you connect with you more. I mean, customers know you better. They tend to connect with you better, trust you more. People who are prospects in your pipeline, they connect with you more on a personal level. And then being able to share about business stories or things like you're talking about with success, where you're sharing that from a personal perspective is really powerful. So then what formats do you see typically work the best for driving revenue?
What do you mean?
Like, is it written posts, video, content, or, there's lots of different formats that you can take?
Yeah, so this is what I'll say. I think that both can be very successful. We're seeing this wave now of LinkedIn becoming a little bit more TikToky is how I would describe it, where short form video is just flooding the market. You can be successful in both, but what I've seen personally is when you're targeting, specifically when you're targeting another business, right? So we only work with B2B companies, right?
Yeah.
Businesses that are targeting other businesses. What we've seen is the professional aspect of a post definitely goes further, but it's not to diminish the value of a great video. We have founders that we know that we actually work with founders who they have a podcast similar to yourself. They have some sort of other medium that we help them with clips and all of these different things that they can post here, and it does great, right? It's an amazing thing. But what we have seen is that posts themselves build a certain credibility that videos don't, specifically on LinkedIn. And I'm not sure why. I think it's very interesting because obviously we're so accustomed to seeing short form and long form videos on social media. That's how we were introduced to social media in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that written content has still remained true on LinkedIn. Obviously, that's what it was meant for in the beginning. But I would definitely say that if you're able to, again, build up that credibility on LinkedIn, if you're doing it through written content, you will likely go further, but it's not to diminish the value of video.
So what are some practical steps that if somebody's listening to this and they say, hey, I want to step out a little bit more, I want to start creating more written content for LinkedIn, what advice would you give them, or what practical steps could they take to get started?
Yeah. So first step is, okay, understanding who you are as a founder, right? First understanding, wait a second, what is the reason that I actually got started in this in the first place, right? Why did I want to start this company? Really asking yourself the questions that like someone who was interviewing you exactly like this would be asking you, right? Having a good understanding of the why behind it. Why did I want to start this company? What problem did I see? What was the solution that I realized was not already in the market, right? Starting to kind of understand the thinking behind the product, the founder themselves, right? So first and foremost, you have to realize that before trying to sell a product, before trying to really promote a service, you should be first essentially introducing the world to who you are. That's what step one should be. Having a good understanding of, wait a second, like these people do not know who I am. I can't just start selling a service to when I have 50 connections, 100 connections, and these people have no idea who I am. So first you have to try and provide value in some way. So obviously introduce yourself. You want to continuously be promoting who you are as a person, and this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm up to, really sharing that journey, and also provide value in what you already know. So if you've been a marketing professional for 20 plus years, share some insights that you've learned over the years, right? Either as a checklist, maybe personal anecdotes, maybe you see what a company's doing wrong. It could be a massive company that you could talk about Amazon. What is Amazon doing wrong in this department of marketing that you would suggest doing something differently for, right? Even if they're never going to respond to you, it's just one way of showing, wait a second, this is something that you are proficient in. Maybe
Yeah.
I should tag along for the journey, right? So start basic. What do you know and what can you share?
And then do you have any uh, formulas or something that somebody could follow, so that, because I think one challenge for people is, okay, open up their computer, they go, hey, I want to write something for LinkedIn today. And they open up a Word doc or Google Sheets and stare at a blank page. And they're like, okay, they do that for a while. Maybe they write something and then it's not quite right and they get stuck there. So do you have anything that you'd suggest to kind of help get past that initial block?
Yeah. So it's funny for me, for some reason, for me, the best time for me to write is in the car. And not when I'm driving, but like when I'm in the car, either I'm in an Uber or I'm with a friend or whatever it is, for some reason, I guess it's a little bit rude now that I'm thinking about it to be writing in the car with a friend, but that is for some reason the best for my mind. That's when I do the best. I don't know what it is. What I'm realizing is the reason it is because when I'm in motion, I'm constantly thinking of what I've already been experiencing from the day or the week prior. And I'm realizing, wait a second, I can formulate this into an actual idea. So when people talk about like writer's block and people talk about like just exactly what you said, right? Just staring at a blank page, not knowing what to do next. What I like to do is first think about experiences that you've had over the past week, whether it be conversations with others, right? Whether it be different things you've read in a single book or a podcast, right? Understand first, look at what you've actually been experiencing, what you've been digesting over the past few days, and try to see if that sparks anything, any insight, anything you can actually go off of. Because what I've realized is that all of these, everyone's looking for that next profound idea that might come. But in reality, it's not always how it works. Instead, it's wait a second, this is something small that I realized. I was just talking to my mom and she gave me some good advice because I was having struggles with a friend. Then I realized, like, wait a second, that actually can work with me and a coworker. Oh, then I can go from there. Then the wheels start turning. And then you realize there's so many different things I can actually make content about. The biggest struggle is that people think that content has to be game changing, life changing, right? Every single post has to change someone's life in some way. But what I'm realizing is that's not true. Content is more so just your personal journal or diary for the world to see and get a glimpse into how you see the world. That's what it's really there for.
So yeah, just basically having a log of ideas can be really helpful when you're driving, when you're running around. Start pulling ideas there so that when you do actually sit down to write, you're not just staring at a blank screen, and don't limit yourself to how do I tie this into my product or service, or how do I sell somebody through this post, but how do I share a little bit about who I am, my expertise, and ideally tied to some kind of a story or experience or something bigger than the topic itself.
Exactly. It's all about you. That's what people, that's the whole point. Like when people ask, should we be building a brand or should we be building a personal brand first? What comes first? If you're on LinkedIn, it's personal brand first always, because you are the ambassador for your brand. You're the brand ambassador. You're the first person people see, they think about when they're looking at your company. So if you're only talking about the product, you're like, okay, great, he's just a salesman, right? That's not what you're there for. What you're there for is to create a connection with you as a person. And then because of their interest in you, they will then be interested in what you have to sell, what you have to say, right? If you're just asking, no one's going to give to you. So that's why also just having these clear thoughts and insights that you may not think of as so important do go a long way in creating that connection with the people that you obviously eventually want to work with.
So what are some, I'd love to hear a story of a founder that you've worked with or somebody that you've seen where they weren't really posting anything on LinkedIn, and then they started posting, they've shared some of these personal stories, and it's helped them get funding or close deals or, make traction in growing their business.
Yeah, so we actually, in the early stages of Notice, when we're still industry agnostic, but we were really speaking with many different people. And this one person was talking to us, and he's like, look, like I don't know anything about LinkedIn, I know anything about content, but I have a mall and I need it filled by the end of, I don't know, he said by the end of Q1 or whatever, maybe Q2, I need it filled. Us being the stupid 20 and 22-year-old, founder or co-founders said, wait a second, sure, we can do it. Like, why not? Like, yeah, we can do it, whatever. We had no idea what we were going to do, but what we started doing is just started posting on LinkedIn, reaching out to people, doing all these different things, but essentially just promoting him on LinkedIn through his own personal stories, right? And it's also obviously his expertise. Those three pillars, that's actually one of the original reasons that we started to do those three pillars. And by the end of Q1, he had almost like an 80% or 85% of the mall was filled just through content. And we realized, wait a second, like it's an amazing, first of all, like pat yourself on the back. That's amazing that we've done that. But also was a good understanding of, wait a second, like this exposure isn't just, a way to promote a product or just a way to sell to people or just a way to, promote the fact that I just got a promotion, right? This can be something much more valuable and lead to actual money in the pockets of our customers in a matter of days, weeks, and months. And that was something so interesting because before, copywriting and ghostwriting itself was more looked at as as that's the service itself, rather than almost not a means to an end, but rather that's the service. But now we're realizing, wait a second, it is the service, but it actually leads to much more if you're able to put it in the right vehicle. And that's what we truly realized. And that's when we're like, wait a second, we have something here.
I love it, man. Yeah, I mean, and personally, I've closed deals and closed business through LinkedIn, and some of my clients have literally done millions of dollars through a combination of podcasting and LinkedIn. So I'm right there with you, man. It's super powerful to be creating content and personal brand building. So love to hear a little bit more about what you guys do. How do you work with clients and help them grow their personal brand?
Sorry, could you repeat that for 1 sec?
How do you guys that Notice Media help your clients? Like, what do you do to help them grow their personal brand?
Yeah, so what we do is we help. First, we have our interview, right? So first, we get a good sense of who this person is, like almost like a vibe call, right? Understanding, wait a second, this person is, because it's funny, we actually we'll put them with a writer based on their vibe, right? So if it's me or Josh, or if it's one of our writers, what we do is we essentially understand first, who is this person, right? What do they do, right? What is the industry they're in? Also, what is their role within this industry? So if they're moving for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, maybe they can be a thought leader, right? If there's someone more, 3 years, they just started a company, or even less than that. Okay, first we have to establish themselves as an actual person who deserves to have respect in this space, right? So there's a difference. So first we have that vibe call. Then we have another call that understands kind of the content strategy, the go-to-market playbook that we can really implement with them, right? So again, center around those 3 pillars, but understanding how does that actually look in the industry that you're in, right? So then we have an onboarding call. It looks like it's 3 to 5 posts per week that we create for them based off of their tone and voice. Then we help them with people that they can actually engage with. So a whole list of people, creators within their industry, within their niche, that we believe that they should be interacting with through comments, outreach, etc. And then we also help with scripts for actual outreach. So, we all have seen those terrible in-mail DMs saying, buy my service, buy this, buy that. We're realizing, wait a second, that maybe there's an opportunity here for people who don't suck at it to actually get business through these LinkedIn DMs. So we help with scripts that actually go somewhere, right? So with your script, for instance, when you reached out to me, it worked, right? Something obviously about it resonated with me, something that I actually wanted to speak with you about, and it worked, right? So many different opportunities for you to actually speak with those people that you want to get in front of, not just with content, but also with outreach. It's just about asking the right questions, hitting the right chord, which we want to help with as well. Because again, LinkedIn could be everything for you. LinkedIn can be your entire money-making machine. It's just about understanding the tools needed to do so, and how you're going to get from, how are you going to get from 0 to 1.
Love it. Yeah, Jacob, real quick. Sorry, this is live, so I have no other way to ask it. But on my end, my internet's clipping. Are you hearing me come through okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
You sound good.
Okay. Yeah. So with the outreach side, it's kind of funny because I had somebody who was clearly using automation to reach out to me this week, and I reached back out to them and was like, "Does this actually work for you?" Because for most service providers, I found it doesn't really work. And she responded back and said, "Actually, no. I just wanted to try it out, but it's not really working for me." And so, the challenge is when you're focusing on all that automation and all, and everything, it doesn't typically stick because you're not doing research. You're not actually putting that other person, you're not sitting in that other person's shoes and thinking about it. But outreach does work really effectively if you do it right. And, especially if you can reach out to people without having to pitch at first, and you're just building a relationship and starting a genuine conversation with them. That's where I've found it work most effectively. But I even had somebody reach out to me today with a pitch where they had gone to one of my videos and edited the beginning of it and said, "Hey, I think this would be an improvement on your videos. I'd love to work with you on editing them." And I responded back. So it's like, if you are going to take time and effort to do your outreach, it can work super effectively. Well, awesome. Yeah, I wanted to keep this episode a little bit short and sweet. So, Jacob, thank you so much for joining me on the episode today. Really appreciate you taking time to jump on with me. You shared some great insights, and I totally agree. Personal brand building, creating content is super important to stand out, especially on LinkedIn and make money. So, thanks so much for coming on to share.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Had a good time.
All right, and we'll see you guys next time.